Well, hello there. Welcome back to the Pacific War channel, where we cover the entire history of the Asia-Pacific War from 1937 all the way up to 1945, and all the major events that led up to it. In the last episode, we spoke about the collapse of the First United Front. Chiang Kai-Shek stepped down and Wang Jingwei took his place. The Northern Expedition is not done just yet, but will it still be possible to reunify China? Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave some comments on this video to let me know your thoughts on what you want to see in the future episodes. But, stating all of that, let's get on with the show. This episode is the Reunification of China. Hey everyone, I just wanted to let you know I now have a Patreon account found at www.patreon.com/thepacificwarchannel. Over there you can find exclusive Patreon episodes and podcasts based on suggestions from patrons, and other benefits like early access to all of my content, live hangouts, your name in the end credits, and much, much more, so please go check it out. Chiang Kai-Shek had stepped down as Generalissimo. The First United Front had collapsed, and a new unified nationalist government was being held by Wang Jingwei.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Will the Nationalists be able to defeat the NPA and reunify China? As Wang Jingwei reorganized the NRA and Chiang Kai-Shek left the scene, Sun Quanfang's army was bombarding Nanjing from across the Yangtze. Sensing the opportunity was ripe while the enemy was reorganizing, Sun Quanfang sent his forces to recapture Shanghai, but this was not what Zhang Zuolin wanted. By late August, the NPA began to land forces across the Yangtze at Longtan near Nanjing. On August the 26th, Sun's men rallied at Longtan Station along the Shanghai-Nanjing Railway. Li Zhongren's NRA 7th Army managed to drive the NPA off the railway line, but only briefly as more and more of Sun's forces arrived at the scene, including some White Russian mercenary units. Soon the contact between Nanjing and Shanghai was severed, absolutely shattering the NRA's commanders. All the leadership in the NRA began calling for unity in the face of Sun's advancing army. Feng Yuxiang leapt into action by sending the Guomingjun to attack Shandong province on August the 28th. While Wuhan sent its forces north to flank Sun, and He Yingxin hit Sun from Shanghai. Sun's army was surrounded and forced to abandon the Longtan railway station on August the 30th. In desperation, Sun rallied 40,000 troops to try and launch a counter-offensive the next day, only to be absolutely crushed in a terrible battle, leading him to lose 10,000 men. While more of his men began surrendering, Sun was able to escape to Shandong province with the remnants of his army. With the amazing victory in hand, the Wuhan government officially dissolved and a new joint government was established in Nanjing under the leadership of the Guangxi Clique generals. Wang Jingwei and Tang Xiangji refused to join the new government. In fact, Tang Xiangji went ahead becoming a formidable independent warlord who controlled Hunan, Jiangxi, Hubei, and parts of Anhui province. Then the warlord of Shanxi, Yan Xishan, finally tossed his hat into the ring, joining the new Nanjing government, adding 100 fresh troops to the NRA. Yan Xishan came into the scene with a bang, immediately commencing offensives against the NPA. In the bloody mayhem, the Shanxi and Fengtian cliques forces clashed, but neither side managed to gain the upper hand over the other. Yan Xishan's forces withstood a massive siege at Zhou, and then suffered a terrible defeat at Baoding on October the 15th. Meanwhile, the NRA began to hit Tang's forces in October and November. Tang was defeated and forced to leave in exile for Japan. With Tang's rebellion out of the way, the push north resumed and the NRA managed to take Bengdu by November the 9th. Feng's Guomingjun also pushed on and recaptured Xuzhou. Now the NPA was yet again pushed into Shandong province. Yet despite all of this, without Chiang Kai-Shek's bold tactics, many in the nationalist government saw the Northern Expedition coming undone. While Chiang Kai-Shek drank tea with the Songs in Kamakura, the situation back home was becoming dangerous. The remnants of the purged communists formed an army, and they had been deployed into Jiangxi province where they were marching upon Guangzhou. They began occupying a couple of towns, and they fought the NRA troops sporadically. While Chiang Kai-Shek and his wife were relaxing, some of the southern warlords began to see their big chance to raise a bit of hell, and the Northern Expedition was becoming derailed. The people sought a strongman to rein everybody back in. They were calling for Chiang Kai-Shek. The Communists had been planning an uprising in Guangzhou ever since the Nanjing Incident. The plan called for peasants and workers to act as auxiliaries while the CCP soldiers would fight to claim territory. Grand Secretary of Guangdong Province, Zhang Zuolin, was heading the plan. The CCP took advantage of some in-house fighting between the KMT-aligned warlords, Li Jixian and Zhang Fanghui, within Guangdong Province. While the two warlords fought, the Communists aligned peasants and workers and they began to take control over county seats and formed general strikes paralyzing Guangzhou. Li Jixian began to attack Zhang Fanghui on November the 27th, capturing Guangzhou in a surprise attack. After this, Zhang moved his forces out of the city to resist countless counterattacks by Li. Once this was kicking off, a revolutionary military council appointed Ye Qing as commander-in-chief and Zhang Zuolin as chairman. In early December, Communist forces gathered in Guangdong with a core fighting force of around 2,000 armed workers and 1,200 soldiers. They would soon be joined by many others. On December the 11th, the CCP ordered around 20,000 Communist soldiers and armed workers to organize a Red Guard to capture Guangzhou. They were insufficiently armed, only had 20,000 rifles, but nevertheless they captured most of the city within mere hours using a surprise attack. And thus soon the CCP began to establish its own new government base in Guangzhou. But the NRA sent 15,000 soldiers swiftly to quell the insurgency. Guangzhou saw battling between the two forces until 5 more NRA divisions showed up, causing heavy casualties upon the Communist forces, and they were forced to leave. Losses were heavy on both sides, but the Communists took the brunt, losing 5,700 men. While this was all occurring, Chiang Kai-Shek was in Shanghai meeting Wang Jingwei. Wang Jingwei was under immense pressure from the public who wanted Chiang Kai-Shek back, and there was also suspicion about Wang's involvement in the Guangzhou Uprising. You see, Wang Jingwei had been based in Guangzhou after the Wuhan government disbanded, and many pointed fingers at him. In truth, Wang Jingwei came to see Chiang Kai-Shek, admitting he was in over his head as chairman, and he conceded Chiang Kai-Shek needed to return.
I am sorry, my mentor. I have failed you.
They soon formed an agreement. Wang Jingwei would resign his post as chairman, and Chiang Kai-Shek would return to office.
Now, say my name.
Big Daddy Chiang.
You're goddamn right.
A few weeks later, Wang Jingwei sailed for France in exile. Chiang Kai-Shek's first order of business was to call for all diplomatic relations between China and the Soviet Union to end.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
By January the 2nd, Chiang Kai-Shek was formally requesting to return to Nanjing to resume both his offices, that of chairman and that of commander-in-chief of the Northern Expedition. On January the 4th, Chiang Kai-Shek was yet again generalissimo. Twice while en route to Nanjing, attempts were made to frustrate his journey. But when he finally reached Nanjing, he was met with ovation. Now until August, Chiang Kai-Shek was to have dictatorial powers, and it was presumed the Northern Expedition would be completed by then. In early February, Chiang Kai-Shek inspected the army at its most advanced point, which was Xichao by then. He began reorganizing the command, naming himself leader of the first group. He then formed 4 collective armies with He Yinxin as chief of staff. The first collective army was based in the Nanjing-Shanghai area. The second collective army was Feng Yusung's Guoming-jun. The third was Yuan Xishan's Shanxi forces, and the fourth was Li Zhongren's Guangxi Clique army. Chiang Kai-Shek sent messages to all the commanders that there would never be again a repetition of the incidents that occurred against foreign residents, because he had begun forming requests from foreign authorities to prevent them from selling arms to the NPA. Now, the NRA was a behemoth 1 million strong force made up of mostly ex-warlord armies. Before beginning the new offensive, Chiang Kai-Shek tried to negotiate with the Japanese to prevent them from interfering in Shandong province again. He planned for a 3-pronged attack. Feng Yusung's 2nd NRA army would approach from Hunan, Yuan Xishan's 3rd NRA army would approach from Shanxi, and Chiang Kai-Shek would lead the 1st NRA army to attack Shandong via the Tianjin-Pukou Railway. The 1st NRA army took Tongzhou with ease by April the 16th, and the 2nd NRA army captured Jiaxing on the 15th, prompting Sun Quanfang to attempt a 2-pronged counter-offensive against the 1st and 2nd NRA armies. Sun's first prong managed to push the 1st NRA army back to the Langhai Railway, but his second prong failed to push back Feng's men, and by April the 21st, both NRA armies forced Sun to withdraw from Jingning to Jinan. Jinan was full of a very alarmed Guangdong army that had been deployed there coming from Qingdao. By April the 29th, Chiang Kai-shek's forces surrounded Jinan, but he ordered his men to not attempt any entry of the city and instead to try and pass along the railway. The Japanese forces, however, intentionally moved onto the railway to deter them. There were around 3,000 Huangutun soldiers in the city protecting 2,000 Japanese citizens, and they were looking for a fight. Allegedly, one NRA officer ignored orders and deliberately tried to get into the city, prompting the Japanese to open fire with their heavy artillery. For the next few days, the Chinese within the city suffered immensely, and soon 17 Chinese civilians were killed by the Japanese. It turns out the Guangdong force led by General Fukuda Hikosuke had gone to Jinan without orders, acting on his own. This was going to soon become an ongoing theme for the Guangdong army, causing numerous incidents in the future. On May the 2nd, Chiang Kai-shek came to negotiate with General Fukuda, and they came to an agreement for a withdrawal with safety guarantees. The next morning, as the Japanese began to withdraw, suddenly a clash erupted with the Chinese forces. The Japanese attacked a Chinese wireless station, and thus the media press coverage would have to rely solely upon Japanese correspondents.
Touch the stuff, not gonna touch the stuff, never touch the stuff. That was a lie.
According to the report from General Fukuda, a group of NRA soldiers commanded by General He Yaozu, who they said was also responsible for the Nanjing Incident, had broken into the office of the Japanese-owned Manchu Nippo newspaper and assaulted the owner at 9:30 a.m. A Japanese patrol led by Captain Kumikawa Yoshiharu rushed to the scene and attempted to stop the Chinese, causing a firefight. A report given to Chiang Kai-shek by his own men said a Chinese soldier was attempting to receive medical aid at a local Christian hospital when he was blocked by a Japanese soldier before they shot and killed him. Regardless of who started it, soon a full-scale conflict began amongst the NRA and the Guangdong army. Furthermore, some Japanese state they found some of their civilians massacred and mutilated, and thus some of their men entered the negotiation headquarters with the NRA and promptly killed the Chinese diplomat, Tai Guanishi, alongside 9 civilian staff and 7 NRA soldiers. Thousands of Chinese civilians and soldiers were killed, alongside 16 Japanese civilians and 26 Guangdong soldiers. The Japanese seized control over Jinan, and Chiang Kai-shek was forced to apologize and appease them by May the 10th. From henceforth, Chiang Kai-shek knew Japan was his ultimate enemy, but China was in no position yet to fight back against such a terrific enemy. This incident infamously became known as the Jinan Incident. It was a pivotal event that would bring China and Japan closer to what would become the Second Sino-Japanese War. The NRA tried to avoid the Japanese after this incident, choosing to march north by going around Jinan. The NRA 1st Army seized Duzhou on May the 13th, the NRA 2nd Army besieged Baoding, and the NRA 3rd Army attacked Jiangjiaokao. On May the 17th, Zhang Zuolin launched a massive 200,000-man counteroffensive, pushing the NRA 1st and 2nd Armies 30 miles south. But during this time, the NRA 3rd Army captured Jiangjiaokao by May the 25th, bringing the war to Beijing's doorstep. It was at this point Japan cabled word both to Chiang Kai-shek and Zhang Zuolin, warning them if any fighting were to break out in Manchuria, it would result in Japanese intervention. Zhang Zuolin's position was terrible now. His forces were completely demoralized. The KMT had achieved a brilliant propaganda campaign, pinning the Jinan Incident upon him, and all the vital railways were now in the hands of the NRA. After the 3rd NRA Army took Jiangjiaokao, they soon were pressing towards Nankou, forcing Zhang Zuolin to call it quits. He had to flee back to Manchuria. Under heavy pressure from the Japanese, he got aboard a train in Beijing on the night of June the 3rd of 1928 to head for Shenyang. And it is here a domino piece would eventually cause the outbreak of the Second Sino-Japanese War. The Japanese no longer trusted Zhang Zuolin. He proved to no longer be trustworthy at keeping the status quo, i.e., an independent Manchuria, which the Japanese sought. The Japanese had plans to seize Manchuria, and they could afford no intervention. Replacing Zhang Zuolin with a more cooperative puppet seemed to be the only solution to their problem. Zhang Zuolin's train was traveling along the Jingfeng Railway, which was under his control. However, just a few cliques east of Huangutun Railway Station was the South Manchuria Railway Crossing, under the control of the Guangdong Army. One Colonel Daisuke Komoto, a junior officer of the Guangdong Army, without direct orders from Tokyo, decided to assassinate Zhang Zuolin. Alongside Toichi Sake and Captain Kaneo Tomiya, a plan was executed using a bomb on the tracks. At 5:23 a.m. on June the 4th, Zhang Zuolin's train passed over a bridge along the tracks where a bomb exploded, killing Zhang Zuolin and several of his officials.
You serious?
While the plan went off without a hitch, the person they wanted to replace Zhang Zuolin was General Yang Yuting, but he did not get the job. No, it turns out when you perform such an operation without telling your senior leadership, they're not always so quick to prepare the follow-up.
Yeah, listen. We fucked up.
The Guangdong leadership were shocked about the incident, and they failed to mobilize a plan to replace Zhang Zuolin with a man that had already been groomed for the position, General Yang Yuting. Instead, it was Zhang Zuolin's son, Zhang Xueliang, who became leader of the Fengtian clique. Much to the surprise of Chiang Kai-Shek, the young Zhang Xueliang came to him stating they should form an alliance. Zhang Xueliang told Chiang Kai-Shek he had no issue with the Generalissimo becoming the leader of a unified China. Zhang Xueliang henceforth said he would control influence limited to Manchuria and Jehol province, and would tell all the other warlords under him to align themselves with Chiang Kai-Shek. One warlord who did not want to join Chiang Kai-Shek's side, though, was the dog-meat general Jiang Zongchang, who took his Shandong Zhuli army alongside Zhu Yupu to carry on the fight. Jiang Zongchang still had around 70,000 soldiers, including 3 armored trains run by white Russian mercenaries, and Japanese support was behind him. As Zhang Xueliang began his alliance with Chiang Kai-Shek, Jiang Zongchang declared war on the Fengtian clique.
Or I'll walk out of this arena!
His forces launched out at Tangshan on August the 2nd, trying to invade Manchuria. After 6 days of battle, the army of Jiang Zongchang was encircled by the combined might of the NRA and their new Fengtian allies. The majority of Jiang Zongchang's troops, including the White Russians, began to defect and desert. In the end, the NRA general, Bai Zhongxi, gave the killing blow to Jiang Zongchang's army, capturing 20,000 of his men and almost managing to seize Jiang Zuolin himself. Jiang Zongchang fled for his life as the remnants of his army scattered and looted Shandong province, causing chaos. Jiang Zongchang fled to Dalian under Japanese protection, where he tried to execute several plots to regain Shandong province, but it was to no avail. He would go on to fight bitterly, and he caused a revolt, but it was easily suppressed. In the end, Jiang Zongchang would flee to Japan, and later in life would be assassinated by the nephew of an officer he had executed while leading his forces. It is suspected Feng Yuseng might have been involved in the murder. And thus ends Dog Meat General.
All we are is dust in the wind. You're my boy, Blue! You're my boy.
On December the 29th of 1928, Zhang Xueliang officially declared his allegiance to the nationalist government of Nanjing, marking the formal end of the Northern Expedition and the reunification of China. The war against the warlords was quasi-over, but the war against Japan was just about to begin. Well, alright, now let's go over everything we've just learned. Chiang Kai-Shek came back as Generalissimo of the Nationalists. The Northern Expedition was a success, and now China for a large part was finally reunified under Chiang Kai-Shek. Now Chiang Kai-Shek had to build up his nation for the real enemy, Japan, who was lurking in Manchuria, ready to pounce at any moment. Please leave a like, subscribe, and a comment to let me know what you want to see in future episodes. Don't forget, I now have my own Patreon account, which can be found at www.patreon.com/thepacificwarchannel. I hope to see you there. But until next time, this is the Pacific War Channel, over and out.